Okay, so just a little bit about the 21 chromosomes of hexaploid wheat. Does anybody here know anything about wheat genetics? That's a terrible question to ask, isn't it? You all know something about wheat genetics. Let me ask a different question. Hexaploid wheat, common wheat, bread wheat. Okay, are you aware that it's a hybrid between 3 different plant species? All right, so it actually has 3 genomes. It's got the A genome, which came from a thing called Triticum urartu. It's got a B genome that came from Aegilops speltoides or something like that, and a D genome that came from Triticum tauschii. And what happened was, initially there was a hybridizational event between these 2 grass species that gave rise to tetraploid wheat, and that tetraploid wheat then hybridised with this one to give rise to hexaploid wheat. So bread wheat, common wheat, has 3 different genomes, and Gordon will talk to you in much greater detail about that tomorrow. But in order to really have some, I suppose, understanding of the genetics of resistance when we start talking about genes, you sort of have to have a basic understanding of this. So out of those, we call these chromosomes in each genome homologous chromosomes, and we call the ones between the genomes homologous chromosomes, right? And each of those chromosomes has a long arm and a short arm. So you'll often hear things like, and I've got to try and, I can't think of an example here, LR34YR18 is on chromosome 7DS, I think, all right? That means that it sits on this chromosome down here on the short arm, 7DS. This is another example here, 1AS, 1AL, the short arm and the long arm of those chromosomes. And we've mapped all of these resistance genes to the arms that the chromosome arms that they sit on. All right, we've actually so far found more than 150 genes or loci, genetic loci in wheat, that give resistance to rust. And these are called SR genes, YR genes, or LR genes. I was talking before about YRA, YR6, YR7. Zach was talking yesterday about SR2. We've talked about LR34YR18. These are all loci that have been mapped in hexaploid wheat down to regions on chromosomes that confer resistance to rust pathogens. Are you familiar with this designation? It's a little confusing. SR is stem rust, YR is stripe rust, but this comes from yellow rust, and this is leaf rust, right? Most of these genes come from Triticum aestivum. This is hexaploid wheat, but some of them have been introgressed, brought in from other grass species like Sakali, that's cereal rye, Agropyron, Thinopyron. Just some examples of genes that confer resistance to stem rust. All right, this is the locus, and this is the gene. So you'll see that the SR2 locus has only one gene, SR2. It sits on chromosome 3B on the short arm, and it actually came from durum wheat originally, or from tetraploid wheat. SR6, one known gene variant, or allele if you like, SR6, it sits on the short arm of chromosome 2D. Also, this one came from hexaploid wheat. Look at SR9. There are 4, in fact there are more than this, different alleles at the SR9 locus. And that's why there are those letters, SR9A, 9B, 9C, all the way through now to 9H. They're all different alleles, they're different variants of the same gene that sit at the same point on the chromosome. That's why they're called alleles. And the importance of the alleles is that they can't be combined in a variety. You can't have a variety that carries SR9A and 9B together. It's impossible to bring them together. They are what we call linked in repulsion. They sit at the same point on the chromosome. So they tend to repel each other, right? I'm sure Gordon will go into more detail. We're going to talk a little bit more about recombination later on as well. Some other examples there, SR23, SR28 and so on.